I know it's exhausting. Living your life like it's a performance. Every move you make, every word you speak, running through a silent filter. Will they like me if I say this? Will they judge me if I do that? And the craziest part, most of the people you're worrying about aren't even paying attention. We've been trained since childhood to chase approval like it's oxygen. Get good grades so the teacher smiles, be polite so adults say you're a good kid, fit in so nobody laughs. And somewhere along the way, we forgot how to breathe without someone clapping for us. The hidden addiction. Caring what people think is an addiction. It's quiet, sneaky, socially acceptable, but it's still an addiction. You get a hit of approval, you feel good for a moment, and then you need more. You post something online, and instead of asking, did that message help someone? You refresh the screen waiting for likes. You say yes to things you hate because you can't stand the idea of disappointing anyone. You bite your tongue, nod along, and call it keeping the peace, but inside, you're screaming. Because every time you silence your truth to protect someone else's comfort, you shrink a little bit smaller. The real cost. Let me tell you what this addiction costs you. It costs you time because you spend hours replaying conversations in your head. It costs you energy because you're constantly performing instead of living. It costs you opportunity because fear of judgment keeps you from trying. And worst of all, it costs you peace. You can't be free and be controlled by opinions at the same time. Every time you hand someone else the power to define you, you sign up for a lifetime of exhaustion. The lie you've been sold. Here's the big lie society feeds you. If everyone likes you, you'll be happy. No, if everyone likes you, you'll be fake. Because in order to be liked by everyone, you have to betray yourself again and again. You have to smooth your edges, silence your opinions, and trade authenticity for acceptance. And that's not kindness, that's self-abandonment. The truth is, not everyone is supposed to like you. You're not ice cream, you're a human being with opinions, boundaries, and dreams. Some people won't understand your fire, and that's okay. They weren't meant to sit by your flame. A little story, let me tell you about a woman I met at one of my events. Her name's Erin. She was in her 40s, a brilliant designer, but she told me she hadn't shared her own ideas at work in years. I asked her why. She said, every time I speak up, my boss gives me this look, like I'm overstepping. So she stopped speaking up. And you know what happened? Her boss never changed, but she did. She started believing she didn't have good ideas anymore. That's what happens when you care too much about other people's reactions. You start editing yourself before the world even gets a chance to. The good news? You can take that power back. The moment you decide your voice matters, it does. Why we all do it. Let's be real. You care what people think because at some level you want to belong. That's human. It's biological. Our brains are wired for tribe survival. Rejection once meant danger. But the problem is that same wiring runs wild in a world where rejection isn't lethal anymore. Now it just keeps you small. Your brain still treats criticism like a threat. It pumps you with cortisol. Your heart races. Your mind starts spinning. What if they think I'm stupid? What if they don't like me? So you play safe. You stay quiet. You blend in. And the tragedy? You start rejecting yourself, just to avoid being rejected by others. The moment everything changes, I want you to think of one area of your life where you've been holding back because of what people might say. Maybe it's starting that business. Maybe it's leaving that relationship. Maybe it's posting that video, or wearing what you actually love. Whatever it is, I want you to imagine what would happen if, for just 1 week, you stopped caring about the judgment. Not forever. Just 7 days of radical self-permission. Would you walk differently? Speak louder? Show up as yourself, not as the version you think they expect? That's the quiet power I'm talking about. It's not loud rebellion, it's calm ownership. Quiet power isn't reckless. Now let me be clear. Not caring what people think doesn't mean being rude, arrogant, or selfish. It means living in alignment with what you know is right for you, even when it makes others uncomfortable. It means learning to listen to advice without being ruled by it. It means choosing growth over approval. It means saying, I respect your opinion, but I'm still going to do what feels right. Quiet power isn't noise, it's clarity. When you stop chasing validation, your energy stops scattering. You become grounded, focused, unstoppable. A quick reality check. You think people are judging you? They're not. They're too busy judging themselves. That coworker you're scared to speak up around, she's probably worried about what you think of her. That friend you're trying to impress, he's scrolling through his own insecurities. Everyone's too wrapped up in their own movie to focus on yours. So here's the question. Why are you living like the whole world's watching when most people don't even notice the details of their own lives? The freedom you've been looking for. The moment you stop caring what they think, a new kind of silence appears. Not the silence of holding back, the silence of peace. You stop explaining yourself. You stop chasing reactions. You start creating from truth. That's the sound of freedom. You become lighter, clearer, happier, because the energy you used to spend managing everyone's opinions finally comes back home to you. Closing part 1. So here's your challenge for today. Notice how many times you hesitate before doing something, and ask yourself, who am I trying to please right now? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Awareness is the first crack in the wall, and through that crack, light gets in. You're not here to be universally liked. You're here to be real, to be bold, to be you. And when you start showing up that way, the right people find you, the right opportunities align with you, the noise fades, the peace grows. That's the quiet power. So how do you actually stop caring what people think? How do you break this lifelong pattern that's wired into your nervous system? Let me tell you something real. You don't break it by suddenly waking up one day and shouting, "I don't care anymore." That's not confidence, that's panic in disguise. You break it the same way you break any habit, with awareness, practice, and repetition. Step 1. Catch yourself in the act. The first step is to notice when it happens. When you hesitate before speaking up, when you water down your opinion, when you scroll back through a message before hitting send, trying to make it sound nice enough, that's the moment you're handing your power away. I want you to pause and say out loud, "Oh, that's me caring too much what people think." That sentence alone interrupts the pattern. It brings your awareness back to the driver's seat. You can't change what you don't see. Most people ask the wrong question. They ask, "What will people think if I do this?" You need to flip it. Ask instead, "What will I think of myself if I don't?" That single shift rewires your decision making, because now you're acting from self-respect instead of fear. You stop living from other people's approval and start living from your own alignment. When you move from "will they like me" to "will I like me," everything changes. Here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud. Confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move anyway. You're going to feel awkward. You're going to feel exposed because you've spent your entire life trying to blend in. But discomfort is not danger. It's just growth in disguise. Every time you do something bold, speak up, set a boundary, try something new, your brain screams, "Warning, you're being judged." And that's when you breathe. You remind yourself, this is what confidence feels like. Shaky, uncertain, but moving forward anyway. That's real courage, the quiet kind. A story about fear. A few years ago, I coached a young man named Alex. He had a dream of starting a podcast, but he kept saying, "Mel, I'm terrified. What if people think it's stupid?" So I asked him, "What if they do? Then what?" He just stared at me, because nobody ever asks that follow-up question. What if they think it's stupid? Then what? You feel embarrassed? Okay, you survive. You learn. You record another episode. The fear of judgment loses power when you shine light on what happens after. Most of the time, the worst-case scenario is just a few seconds of discomfort, and then life goes on. Step 4. Remember the math. Let's do a little math. There are over 8 billion people on this planet. Even if 1% of them don't like you, that's 80 million people. You can't win that game, so stop playing it. The goal is not universal approval, it's personal integrity. When you stop chasing numbers and start chasing meaning, you finally start to feel alive. Step 5. Practice micro-confidence. You don't rebuild your confidence by waiting for a massive life moment. You do it in tiny, ordinary acts. You wear the outfit you like, even if it's not in. You post the thought that feels real, even if it's not perfect. You speak up in that meeting, even if your voice shakes. Every small act of honesty trains your brain that you are safe to be seen. That's how you reprogram years of people-pleasing. One brave moment at a time. The mirror test. Here's something I do when I catch myself shrinking. I look in the mirror and ask, who am I living for right now? If the answer isn't me, I know I've drifted again. And then I do one thing, just one, that brings me back to my truth. Sometimes that's saying no. Sometimes it's speaking up. Sometimes it's simply being silent instead of explaining myself. Because you don't owe everyone an explanation for your peace. Stop apologizing for existing. Let's talk about apologies for a second. Have you noticed how often you apologize for simply taking up space? Sorry for bothering you. Sorry for asking. Sorry for being late. Sorry for not texting back. You're not sorry. You're conditioned. You've been taught that your presence needs permission. You don't owe anyone an apology for being human, for trying, for learning. Real confidence isn't loud. It's quiet ownership. It's walking into a room and thinking, I belong here, without needing to prove it. A story about change. There was a woman named Tasha who came to one of my workshops. She told me, Mel, I've spent my entire life trying to be liked. She was exhausted, professionally successful, but emotionally empty. We did one simple exercise. For 1 week, she was not allowed to say yes to anything that didn't feel true. On day 3, she said no to a project at work that would have burned her out again. Her boss was shocked, but you know what happened next? He respected her more, because people can sense when you respect yourself. That's the paradox. When you stop chasing approval, you often gain it. Let's rewrite the word selfish, because it's been twisted. Selfish doesn't mean you don't care about others. It means you finally include yourself in the equation. When you take care of yourself, you have more to give. When you protect your energy, you show up with clarity. It's not selfish, it's sustainable. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't inspire anyone while living a life that drains you. Your energy is currency. Think of your energy like money. Every yes you give is a transaction. Every maybe that you drag out is like paying double for something you never wanted. So be intentional. Before you agree, ask yourself, can I afford this? Not in dollars, in energy, in peace, in authenticity.
Because every time you spend energy to impress someone, you go broke in self-respect. Closing part 2. Listen, this is your life. You get one shot at it. And I want you to remember this line. The people who truly love you will never make you feel small for being yourself. Those are your people. Everyone else is just background noise. So stop performing. Start living. Catch yourself in the act. Ask the right questions. And practice micro-confidence every single day. Because that's how the habit breaks. Not in one dramatic moment, but in 100 quiet choices where you decide my opinion matters most. That's the work. That's the freedom. That's the quiet power. Here's something I wish someone had told me years ago. When you stop caring what people think, it's not just about confidence, it's about trust. Because at some point, you stopped trusting yourself. You started believing other people's opinions over your own instincts. You started thinking that the crowd knew better than your gut. And every time you ignored that little voice inside you, you taught yourself that your own judgment couldn't be trusted. That's what we're going to fix. The broken promise loop. Every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, I'll speak up next time, I'll set a boundary soon, and then you don't. You break a small promise to yourself. And here's what's wild. Your brain keeps score. So when the next opportunity comes, your brain whispers, why bother? You don't follow through anyway. That's why your confidence feels fake, because it's built on broken promises. But the moment you start keeping those tiny promises again, your self-trust begins to rebuild, quietly, powerfully, like a muscle waking up after years of sleep. Start small, stay steady. You don't rebuild self-trust with giant gestures. You rebuild it with small, consistent acts of integrity. If you say you'll get up when the alarm rings, get up. If you promise yourself you'll take a walk tonight, do it. If you tell yourself you'll say no to something that drains you, follow through. You don't need to shout about it. Just do it quietly. That's how confidence grows, not from external praise, but from internal proof. When you can trust yourself to do the small things, you'll start believing you can handle the big ones. The mirror conversation. I had this conversation once with a woman named Claire. She was in her late 30s, burnt out, and said, Mel, I don't even recognize myself anymore. I told her, okay, let's rebuild that recognition. We started with one simple practice. Every morning, she stood in front of the mirror, looked herself in the eyes, and said, I've got you. That's it. It felt ridiculous at first. She laughed, she cried, she rolled her eyes, but she kept doing it. And 3 weeks later, she emailed me saying, I'm finally starting to believe me again. That's the moment it changes, when you stop looking outward for reassurance and start giving it to yourself. Let's be honest, most people are outsourcing their confidence. They need likes, praise, compliments, followers, validation, external proof that they matter. But here's the truth. Confidence built on approval is fragile. Confidence built on self-trust is unbreakable. Because when you know you'll show up for yourself no matter what, you stop being controlled by who claps and who doesn't. You become the applause. He was a marketing executive, successful on paper, but living a double life of burnout and resentment. He said yes to every project, every request, every dinner invite, because he was terrified that saying no would make people dislike him. So I gave him one assignment. For 1 week, say no to one thing every day. By day 2, he said no to a pointless meeting. By day 5, he declined an event he never wanted to attend. By day 7, he said no to a client who disrespected his time. And do you know what happened? Nobody exploded. Nobody stopped liking him. But Sam changed. He said, for the first time, I feel like I'm the one steering my life. That's what self-trust feels like. Calm, steady, powerful. Learning to be seen. Let's talk about visibility. Because one of the hardest things to do when you've been a lifelong people pleaser is to let yourself be seen. Not the curated version of you. Not the polite, filtered, socially acceptable you. The real one. That's scary because it feels vulnerable. But you can't build genuine connection while hiding behind a mask. You can't attract the people meant for you if you're pretending to be someone else. The truth is, authenticity will cost you people, but it will return you to yourself. And that's a trade worth making every single time. The 3-second rule. Whenever you feel yourself shrinking back, hesitating before posting, speaking, or sharing something real, use the 3-second rule. You count 3, 2, 1, go. And you do the thing before your brain talks you out of it. That little countdown interrupts hesitation and builds proof that you can act in spite of fear. That's not just neuroscience. That's freedom in action. The power of boundaries. Let's get something straight. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors with locks that you control. When you set boundaries, you're not pushing people away. You're teaching them how to love you better. But when you have weak boundaries, you give people permission to walk all over your peace. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you teach your nervous system that your needs don't matter. So from now on, when something feels off, heavy, or draining, that's your cue. Pause, breathe, reconsider. Because saying no to the wrong thing is saying yes to your sanity. Redefining strength. We've been taught that strength looks loud. Bold voices, big moves, power poses. But real strength? It's quiet. It's the calm no. It's the confident silence. It's the moment you don't chase, don't explain, don't justify. That's what true power feels like. Grounded, not performative. A reminder about mistakes. You will mess up. You'll say yes when you should have said no. You'll care what someone thinks when you know you shouldn't. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. Every time you catch yourself slipping back, that's progress, because at least now you notice. You're rewiring decades of conditioning. That takes patience, so give yourself some grace. The quiet rebuild. Rebuilding self-trust is not glamorous. There's no applause, no overnight breakthrough, no viral moment. It's quiet. It's personal. It's the small decision to listen to yourself again and again and again. But one day you'll look back and realize you've stopped second-guessing. You've stopped over-explaining. You've stopped needing anyone to tell you you're doing okay, because you'll know. That's what peace sounds like. Closing part 3. You are not broken. You're just learning to come home to yourself. And that process, that quiet, steady return, is the most courageous thing you'll ever do. So trust yourself again. Keep your promises. Say no when you mean no. Say yes when your gut lights up. And when that old fear whispers, what will they think? You smile and say, it doesn't matter. I know who I am. That's confidence. That's freedom. That's the quiet power of not caring what people think. Living boldly, quietly, and unapologetically. Let's be honest. It's easy to listen to a message like this and think, yeah, I'll start tomorrow. I'll stop caring. I'll change. But you and I both know, tomorrow is where dreams go to die. If you want this to stick, if you actually want to feel that quiet power in your bones, you start today, right now. Because freedom doesn't come from thinking differently. It comes from acting differently. The moment you decide. There's a single moment that can change your entire life. It's the moment you stop asking for permission. Permission to rest. Permission to dream. Permission to say no. Permission to be who you already are. Nobody is coming to hand you that approval slip. You give it to yourself. When you finally decide that your peace matters more than their opinions, you'll start walking lighter. The noise will keep talking. Here's the truth. The world will never stop talking. There will always be opinions, comments, gossip, judgment. You can't control that noise, but you can control the volume of it in your own mind. Because when you know who you are, their words lose weight. Their silence stops scaring you. Their approval stops defining you. You don't need to shout, defend, or convince. You just move, quietly, steadily forward. That's power. A story of one choice. I met a woman named Olivia at an event in New York. She stood up during Q&A, tears in her eyes, and said, Mel, I've lived my entire life trying to be the good daughter, the perfect mom, the reliable friend, and I don't even know what I want anymore. I said, okay, Olivia, if nobody judged you, if nobody cared, what's one thing you'd do differently? She paused, and she said, I'd start painting again. You could feel the entire room hold its breath, because that was the moment she remembered herself. 2 months later, she emailed me a photo of her first art show. It wasn't about success, it was about freedom. That's what happens when you stop living for applause and start living for alignment. The energy shift. Here's the part nobody tells you about not caring what people think. Your entire energy shifts. You stop rushing. You stop over-explaining. You start noticing small joys again. Music, sunlight, laughter, stillness. Because when you're not performing, you finally have time to feel. That peace you've been chasing, it's been waiting for you to stop pretending. Let them. You've heard me say this before. Let them. Let them judge. Let them misunderstand. Let them talk. Let them walk away. Their behavior is not your report card. It's their reflection. The only thing that matters is what you choose to do next. And when you stay grounded in who you are, the noise becomes background music. It's just there, but it doesn't move you anymore. The you underneath the noise. So let's go deeper for a second. Who are you when nobody's watching? Who are you without the filters, without the expectations, without the audience? That version of you, the one that laughs too loud, cries too fast, dreams too big, that's the real one. That's the version that deserves to live outside your mind. And the people who can't handle that, they were never your people to begin with. Reclaiming your voice. For years you've been silencing yourself to keep the peace. But peace built on silence isn't peace. It's suppression. Your voice is your truth. And it doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. So speak up, even if it shakes. Stand tall, even if your knees wobble. Take up space, even if your mind tells you to shrink. Because courage doesn't sound confident. It sounds like breathing through fear and doing it anyway.
Here's what's beautiful about becoming that version of yourself. You give everyone around you permission to do the same. Your kids see it, your friends feel it, your coworkers notice it. Confidence is contagious, authenticity is magnetic, peace is powerful. When you stand tall in your truth, you silently give others the courage to find theirs. That's how change really spreads. Not through shouting, but through quiet example. The loneliness phase, let's talk about something real. When you stop caring what people think, you'll lose some people. You'll outgrow relationships that were built on your compliance. You'll walk away from spaces that demanded your silence. You'll spend some time alone. That's okay. That's not loneliness. That's recalibration. That space you're feeling isn't emptiness. It's freedom, creating room for what's next. Every new chapter starts with a little quiet. Let it be sacred. Rewriting the narrative. For too long, the story in your head has been, if I'm liked, I'll be safe. Let's rewrite it right now. If I'm real, I'll be free. Safety without authenticity isn't safety, it's a cage. And you weren't born to live in one. So this is your permission slip to stop shrinking, to stop explaining, to stop apologizing for existing. You are not here to please everyone. You are here to live truthfully, to love deeply, and to walk freely. Your new definition of success? From now on, success isn't how many people approve of you. It's how peaceful you feel when you're alone with yourself. It's waking up and knowing, I'm proud of who I'm becoming. That's real success. That's freedom that money can't buy. Because when you're living in alignment, you don't need validation, you radiate it. Your final challenge. I want to leave you with this. For the next 7 days, live like nobody's watching. Make one bold decision each day, based purely on what you think is right. No polling people. No asking for permission. Just act on your truth. You will feel awkward. You will feel resistance. But on the other side of that discomfort is the version of you that's been waiting your whole life to show up. The closing moment. Let me say this as clearly as I can. You don't need to earn your worth. You don't need to prove you're enough. You already are. And the moment you start living like that, when you stop trying to perform your life and start actually living it, everything shifts. You'll still hear the noise. You'll still feel the fear, but it won't own you anymore because you'll finally understand you don't need the world's permission to be yourself. You just need your own. So take a deep breath. Let the weight of everyone's opinions fall off your shoulders. Stand tall and walk forward, quietly, powerfully, freely. This is your life, your truth, your peace. Own it.